Hello, everybody. Today, for our oral presentation, we have chosen the piece of art, The School of Athens, which is made by Raffaello Sanzio. So let's start with our oral presentation. In this world, people have their own way to see things. Some people are attracted by the concrete side of the things, and others by the abstract side. The type of side they are attracted to, whether abstract or concrete, will determine the way they act in their life. It will determine whether their focus is more on money and materialistic stuff or on spiritual world and family relations. This division also exists in more specific aspects of life, like science and philosophy. This is what Raphael wanted to show in his painting. Indeed, the School of Athens is an illustration of different conceptions of empirical and theoretical philosophers. So before going further in our oral presentation, I'm just gonna mention that all the information that we gather for this presentation is from mymodernmath.com website. So let's continue. Raffaele Sanzio. He is born in Urbino in 1483. He later passes away at Rome in 1520 at the age of 37. He is an Italian painter and architect of the Renaissance era. For his painting skills, he learned painting in his father's workshop. By the age of 17, he was considered as one of the greatest artists of his time already. Later, in 1504, he moved to Florence, which is a city in Italy, where he started studying the techniques used by the greatest artists of his time, artists such as Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo. So, Pope Julius II is a very important part of this painting, because the painting, The School of Athens, is made on the demand of Pope Julius II. For his library that he had at the time, in the library he had another great painting called the Chapel 16. It was also made on the demand of Pope Julius II. It is one of the masterpieces of the history. It is also one of the 4 frescoes wall of the Chamber of Signature, which is also known as Stanza della Signatura. So the School of Athens is placed face to the Disputa, a fresco that represents technology. The fresco at the School of Athens is painted between 1509 and 1511 and located in the Palace of Vatican. The size of the painting itself is 440 times 777 centimeters, which is really huge. It explores the theme of the philosophy, art, theology, and the common points of the letters. Just to mention, our theme of this presentation is theory versus empirism. In antique Greek philosophy, 2 different conceptions were opposed, theory and empirism. The reason behind this is that Greek philosophers had different beliefs on the world and had different knowledge. The theoretical philosophers value the ideas over the physical realm. It comes from the conviction that the material and physical things are imperfect. They cannot contain truth. Consequently, we have to seek for truth in the abstract and in the immaterial. In the other hand, the empirical philosophers value the physical realm overall. They strongly believe that knowledge comes with concrete evidence and experimentations, and they seek it in the real world, life world. It reminds us about the thinking of Descartes and the Cartesian rationalism. Indeed, Descartes' theory tells us that one thing cannot be acknowledged as true unless there is no doubt about it. We will explain the link between Descartes and the Greek philosophers later.
Hi everybody. Now we're gonna talk a little bit about the main figures of the piece of art and their interpretation. But before that, let's talk a little bit about the Renaissance and the anatomical representation in the Raphael masterpiece. The Renaissance is a period of the modern era characterized by an interest for the antiques knowledge like literature, philosophy, and science. It goes from the 14th century to the 17th century. During this period, people like René Descartes start looking for answers guided by logic. They want answers that are different from the one given by the church and the Bible. There is also an interest for the human being. This new set of ideas is called humanism and put the humanity at the center of the universe. Before the Renaissance, God was considered as the center of the universe. The anatomical representation that we find in the Raphael fresco have a great aesthetic values. It humanized the represented character and it adds emotion to the illustrated themes. Therefore, it denotes a difference with the forms of the ethereal representation very popular in the era of the Middle Age. In the Middle Age, the human body was seen as the cause of sins, so it was hidden in real life under huge clothes. Conversely, it was also hidden in the artistic work that was the ethereal representation is. What we just say show the interest that artists used to have for the humanity at the time, because they didn't stuck at the ethereal representation in the Middle Age. They choose to show a body that has dimension, that is a real body. The accuracy of the body representation and the mastery of the mechanical movement, which is shown in the painting, is the proof of Raphael brilliance. As we said before, the fresco illustrates two different sets of ideas in antique Greek philosophy, which is why it divides in two parts. One that illustrates the theoretical philosopher and the other one, the empirical. In the painting, there is a lot of evidence that support our point of view. At the center of the painting, we can see Plato of Aristotle. It is a way to demonstrate they are the main figure of the work. We will begin with Plato. Plato represents the theoretical philosopher. We recognize him because he is holding his book, Timaeus, and because he is older. Let's not forget, Aristotle was a student of Plato. Plato is pointing at the sky, which is the spiritual realm and the world of idea. At his right, we find famous philosopher, mathematician, and physician that share his point of view. Like we can see, for example, Epicure, Anaximander, Averroes, Socrates, Heraclite, and Pythagoras. We can also see Apollo, the god of music, poetry, and healing. He is an allegory of the natural side of the philosophy. It makes sense then that he is on the Plato side. Now let's move to Aristotle. Aristotle represents the empirical philosopher. We can recognize Aristotle by the fact he is holding a copy of his Nicomachean Ethics. His hand is pointed toward the viewer by opposition to Plato's finger. That means he is pointing at the reality. It is a way to illustrate his attachment to the concrete side of things. Besides, he is wearing blue and brown, which symbolize the water and the ground, two fundamental elements of the physical world. All these signs reveal the contrast and the idea of these two philosophers. At his left, we can see main figures of science like Archimedes, Zoroaster, Ptolemy. We can also see Minerva, the Greek goddess of wisdom and justice. And when we know she's always involved in the daily routine of life, we understand why she is bound to Aristotle.
So, in the conclusion, the school of Athens symbolized the philosophy When we notice the influence of Renaissance and humanism on the fresco, we realize it was a praise to the letters. It was also an attempt to conciliate the ancient Greek knowledge with the Catholic Catholic theology. Sorry, it is still relevant today. These two phenomena, like faith and science, are so important in our society, and yet they are always in contradiction. They are always fighting each other, and that fact raises one question: can religion and science come together?